Well, I've lived in Ahuriri all my life. See, the only time we left here was when we went to Palmerston after the 31 earthquake. And just round the corner here, they call it Kenny Avenue. And it was a tin shed the day of the quake. And there were 4 families and all their children. And everybody had 2 children, but we had all those. 7 girls and 4 boys. I mean, we were the biggest family. Starting school was fun because we lived in Lever Street at that time, and we had to walk Lever Street, Ossian Street, Campbell Street, and then come into Coronation Street. So that'd be 4 streets. We had 3 streets to catch round, but after the earthquake, before we came back there to Lever Street, we didn't come straight back to Lever Street. You see, we were living here in the Beach Road, and the earthquake came, and that's when we went to Palmerston North. Then, my father being a TB case and being in the Napier shelters up here, we had to get back to Palmerston soon as possible because he wouldn't come back. And that's where I think sometimes some of my brothers are a bit determined, because he wasn't going to come back unless he brought all the children and his wife. So we only got as far as Taradale, where the old riverbank is. And we were there a few weeks or so, and then we went up more or less to Green Meadows, halfway between Taradale and Green Meadows. And I can remember my father used to sit at the kitchen table, and you could look out the window and he could see into the next street. You follow me? Next, he would watch us, but we never knew that he could see us, and we'd run like hell to get home from school. We'd always come home for lunch. And we'd get all the way home, and he'd say, "Now, why did you have to run? You walk when you go back, or else." And we never had any trouble with that. We couldn't have cared less whether we were late back for school, because you didn't get growled at. And we used to tootle back and take our time. And that, to me, is as plain as day. Well, then, Mum got word from the people that were around, not where Lever Street is, but the back of it, where the wool stores were, to say that Mrs. McNabb had got us this empty house. And it was a 4-bedroom house. Oh, we just thought it was marvellous, because we had 4 girls in the one room, top and tailed in a single bed. Just imagine. Oh, goodness, we wouldn't have much room to move around. Well, we did that until we got a bit older, and yet we sort of never growled about having to share rooms. And then all of a sudden, my sister, because I was about 7, I think, at the time of the earthquake, and my sister sort of grew up, the oldest one, and she got married very young in life. Well, that made 1 less. And then with my sister growing up, going in the army, that was 2 out. And then Doreen, I don't know, her and Eileen, they had a few words, and she told Mum she was going to leave home, Doreen did. She went and lived with Auntie Nin. Oh yes, she was there just before I got married, because I wasn't going to have her for my bridesmaid if she didn't come home from my aunties and live at Mum's. Of course, Eileen and Doreen had words on where they were going to go for their holidays. One wanted to go to Wellington, the pair of them, and the other one wanted to go to Auckland. And they had this Donnybrook. Oh yeah, when Eileen and Doreen got together, one was as stubborn as the other one. Well, they reckon that's in the Miller family, and yet it didn't come out in my mother. But all her aunts, like all our aunts, Mum's sisters, they were a determined lot. But Mum, I suppose having such a placid husband and so many children, she was quite happy with us, because she always maintained, and she told people to their face, it was us children that kept her going in life, and it kept her young. And that's why I used to say, well, you know, having a large family is good, because you've got plenty of things to do, and you haven't got time to get any worries in your mind. Yeah. And I can even remember when my mother, she wouldn't ask one of her sisters to mind us or anything. She'd have Eileen and Trixie at the bottom of the big pram, and she'd have one on either side, and that would be 4 of us, and then she'd have 2 of them behind that, walking, and she'd walk right up to the port, round the breakwater, take us into town as far as the paddling pool, and we were told that we weren't to come away from there. She'd leave us, and she'd go over to the shop right by the sound shell and get some food and bottles of drink. She'd have all the biscuits and that made, and get some bread and butter, cut the bread while we're up at the beach, have our lunch and things like that on holidays. Oh, Mum, see, I get that from her, all this walking business. I love walking, and we used to do that for miles, and it was good.